aware of all of those things, but I know he don't want to be in here, so I know if he could afford it, he'd be out.
Dallas Dunn has seen his share of wild street drama, but this one hit on another level. A leaked clip popped up showing Yella Beezy talking way too freely about the Mo3 situation, without even realizing he was being filmed. Now the streets are buzzing, the law's tuning in, and things just turned seriously chaotic. This leak didn't just shake Dallas, it flipped it upside down. The moment Beezy slipped up, he wasn't on stage. He wasn't performing, and he definitely wasn't in his usual camera-ready mode, like when Vlad or Ski got him in an interview. Nah, this time he was chilling, too comfortable, talking the kind of talk people only do when they think no one's recording. The vibe was relaxed, the room felt safe, and that's exactly when he dropped a line that might just change everything. What makes this whole thing wild is that Beezy had no clue he was being filmed when he casually mentioned something that sounds way too close to the Mo3 case. And when those words slipped out, you could see it. The instant his confidence vanished. This wasn't the cool, media-trained Beezy we've seen looking dead into the camera saying, "I don't know who that is." No way. This was a different side of him, raw, unfiltered, speaking like the streets weren't watching and like no one would ever hear it. When you catch that clip and see how chill he was right before it all went left, it makes the moment 10 times crazier. It's one of those situations where one sentence can flip your whole image, and Beezy might be learning that the hard way. He wasn't mad, he wasn't under pressure, and he definitely wasn't going off. He was just chilling. And that's usually the moment people start saying too much without realizing it. But before we break down what he actually said, it's important to understand why this moment shook everything up. Beezy has spent years crafting a clean public image, one that separates him from anything involving Mo3. Whenever someone brings up the topic, he instantly switches into that polished media mode. Calm smile, short answers, quick subject change, acting like he can't even say Mo3's name. He pulled the same move in another interview when a host mentioned diss tracks, saying, "I ain't never heard of that artist." Meanwhile, everyone in the Dallas music scene knows the quiet tension between them ran deep. It was one of the most low-key but intense rivalries the city's ever seen. This is the same man who back in March 2025 was indicted for allegedly being involved in a serious plot, with prosecutors claiming he directed others to carry out a hit on Mo3 along I-35E. According to official records, Beezy was charged with capital-level offenses and placed on the house arrest while waiting for trial. So the last thing he needed, the absolute last thing, was to be caught on camera talking too loosely and possibly confirming the type of actions investigators believe were tied to back-and-forth street retaliation in Dallas. But that's exactly what happened. He said it straight out. Beezy admitted he had fired shots before during past street disputes. He tried to smooth it over, stumbling through his explanation, but the message was clear. At the time, nobody made a big deal out of it. But after Mo3's tragic death, that old interview aged terribly. Suddenly, every single thing Beezy ever said about street life got dragged right back into the spotlight. The streets started piecing everything together. Blogs began digging up old videos, fans made timelines, and to talk about revenge, rumors that had been floating around quietly since 2018 came back louder than ever. That's when things took a sharp turn. Beezy himself had already survived the shooting years before Mo3 passed, back in 2018. He was driving on the George Bush Turnpike when his car was hit by a burst of fire gun. 23 shots in total, striking him multiple times. In his own words, the shooters pulled up from the side and opened fire before speeding off. Right away, people started linking that attack to the tension between them, even though Mo3 publicly denied having any part in it. But fans weren't letting it go. They went digging through lyrics, interviews, live streams, and every bit of history between them. Even though Beezy kept insisting he didn't even know Mo3, saying, "I don't know who Buddy is," nobody on the streets believed that. And when Mo3 lost his life in broad daylight on I-35E, reportedly chased and shot while attempting to escape, the whole city took it personally. People saw it as part of a long, silent street feud that had finally reached its breaking point. Over 800,000 fans flooded the internet, shocked and emotional, while Dallas came to a standstill. Police started calling it a targeted attack, something that came from motive, not random chance. And that's exactly why this new leak clip has everyone talking. It flips the story on his head. Beezy spent years acting like he had nothing to do with any of it. He claimed he didn't even know Mo3. He played it cool, saying he never got caught up in that type of drama, calling the whole rivalry just blogger talk. But now, with the footage secretly rolling, Beezy sounded way more familiar. He dropped little details, mentioned moments, and even used a tone that made it clear that he knew more than he ever let on in public. It didn't sound like the clueless, "I don't know that man" routine he gives on camera. It sounded real, unfiltered, and way too honest. That's the difference between sticking to a script and accidentally revealing the truth. And this time, the truth slid right out.
You gotta remember, ever since Beezy got indicted, the legal pressure around him has been intense. Prosecutors haven't let up for a second. The state believes he was behind a plan involving Q and White in the Mo3 case, and they filed some of the most serious charges possible in Texas. Reports say the indictment accuses Beezy of being directly involved and planned in a situation that led to Mo3's death, allegedly working with White to make it happen. On top of that, prosecutors claim to have strong evidence, including money trail patterns, message records, and even witness statements. They even brought in Chase Bank through a subpoena to hand over financial transaction logs that are supposedly tied to the case. When a major bank gets subpoenaed to testify about someone's financial moves, that's not light pressure, that's serious business. This isn't some rap beef or industry gossip anymore. Beezy is staring down charges that could keep him locked up for life, maybe even longer. That's exactly why his recent slip-up feels so huge, because every word matters now. The justice system moves on patterns, and investigators love when someone's own words start matching the theories they've been building. Prosecutors especially love when a defendant contradicts themselves on camera. It makes their job easier. For years, Beezy has stood firm, saying he wasn't part of any street disputes, denied any gang activity, and distanced himself from all the talk about Dallas violence. When Say Cheese asked him directly about gang banging, he swore he didn't take part in that life. He tried to cut ties publicly, changing his image and pushing the narrative of being a family man and clean artist. But in this leaked clip, that polished version of Beezy fades away. He's always acted like this side of him doesn't even exist, and that's exactly why the internet blew up when the clip dropped. The moment Beezy forgot those cameras were rolling, he started speaking like the version of himself the streets always said was real, the unfiltered one, not the polished image he tries to sell to the world. And what makes it even worse is the timing. Beezy is already under house arrest, only allowed out once a week to record music under strict rules. The judge recently approved limited 5-hour studio sessions, but besides that, he's locked in tight. The court even listed it officially. Judge grants Beezy limited studio time while awaiting trial. So right now, he's boxed in, dealing with legal pressure, and now this leaked footage has just added another storm to his plate: public opinion. Because no matter how fair juries try to be, they're still people. If a defendant looks inconsistent, suspicious, or fake, it can shift everything. Jurors don't like when someone says one thing on camera and then acts completely different behind the scenes. They don't like when stories change based on who's listening. And this clip shows a side of Beezy that his legal team definitely didn't want out there. It shows a version of him that feels way too close to the street stories people have been whispering about for years. And what really makes this wild is that his slip-up lines up almost perfectly with details that investigators, fans, and bloggers have been talking about forever. It doesn't prove guilt, but it cracks open a door Beezy's been trying to keep locked tight for years. People online have been saying that after Beezy was attacked, something in him changed. His energy shifted. His attitude, his music, even the way he spoke in interviews all felt different. And not long after Mo3's death, fans started pulling up old clips and comments claiming the tension between the two ran way deeper than most people ever knew. Even major hip-hop platforms picked up on it. Academics posted Beezy arrested for capital murder and death at Mo3, and the internet went crazy. Social media users began reviving every theory, screenshot, or rumor they could find, connecting the dots like detectives. People said Mo3 had past issues with Beezy long before things escalated. So when Beezy recently said something on camera that lined up, even slightly, with all those stories, it blew up instantly. Whether he meant to or not, he basically tore down the "I don't know that man" image he's been trying to protect for years. And now the clip we're about to break down word for word proves it. The mask slipped, and what came out sounded way too close to what Dallas has been whispering about for years. What's craziest about this whole situation is that Beezy didn't just hint at old beef for random street issues. What he said matched up almost perfectly with years of rumors, long-standing tension, and half-spoken stories that everyone in Dallas knew about but never dared to say on camera. And here's what makes part 2 of this story even wilder. Once you place this secret clip side by side with everything Beezy has publicly denied, all the puzzle pieces start fitting together on their own. Because if you rewind far enough, you start to realize this story was never just about rap. The Dallas music scene has been charged up for years, full of energy, pride, and neighborhood rivalries that sometimes get intense. Different crews and personalities constantly cross paths, and Beezy and Mo3 were two rising stars right in the middle of that pressure cooker. But if you listen only to Beezy's public version of things, you think he was just a chill family guy who happened to make trap hits in his spare time. He always talks about minding his business, staying out of drama, and focusing on fashion and music, like his biggest decision was between rocking Gucci sneakers or Dior slides. But behind the lights, off camera, a totally different story was unfolding. One that involved street tension, retaliation rumors, social media shade, and real-life losses, and an entire fan base watching everything like a high-stakes chess game played out in public. And here's the thing, the tension didn't start with Mo3's death. It began long before that, back when Beezy survived his own near-fatal shooting in 2018. The moment it happened, rumors went wild. People started digging into lyrics, interviews, club appearances, and Instagram lives, trying to piece together who might have been connected. And no matter how much people tried to stay quiet about it, one name kept popping up again and again. That's why when Beezy gave interviews after surviving being shot 3 times, everyone was watching his every word. Reports say his car was hit over 20 times during that ambush, and he barely escaped with his life. That experience alone would shake anybody. But what caught people off guard was how calm Beezy seemed afterward. Instead of showing fear or shock, he appeared almost unfazed, composed like someone who had already seen that kind of danger before. He didn't look scared or confused at all. He looked like someone who'd been through that kind of situation before, someone who had already seen real things go down and knew exactly what that kind of chaos felt like. And what's wild is that it actually lines up with his own words from back in the day. Long before the Mo3 situation ever happened, in a 2019 interview, Beezy openly admitted that he had fired shots at people in the past. If he said something like that today, social media would explode instantly. Back then, he tried to explain it away, saying he only did it as retaliation, never out of aggression. But when you line that old confession up next to the tension surrounding the 2018 attack on him, and then fast forward to Mo3's death in 2020, the whole picture starts looking way too familiar. Whether Beezy admits it or not, there's a pattern that keeps popping up.
And that's where the new secret clip fits perfectly. The one he didn't know was being recorded, the one where he said way too much, it lands right in the middle of that timeline. Because when Beezy casually mentioned the situation he spent years denying, the internet didn't need any official statement. They instantly knew what he was talking about. Fans caught it, bloggers caught it, even quiet folks in Dallas who normally keep their opinions to themselves started speaking up. This wasn't just another slip of the tongue. This was major. A man whose entire defense depends on saying "I wasn't involved" ended up sounding like someone who might have been closer to the action than he's ever admitted. It was the kind of raw confession that slips out only when the mask finally drops. And from here, the story takes an even darker turn. When Mo3 lost his life on I-35E on November 11, 2020, the entire city of Dallas was shaken to its core. The attack wasn't just bold, it was public, direct, and deeply personal. According to official reports, Mo3 was chased on foot and shot several times by an armed suspect who followed him onto the freeway. Tragically, an innocent bystander was also injured during the chaos. The moment the news hit, social media went wild. Within hours, people were already connecting the tragedy back to the 2018 attack on Beezy. Fans began digging up old footage of Mo3's interviews and lyrics that hinted at past conflicts, while others resurfaced Beezy's old "I don't know him" moment, accusing him of not being honest about their real relationship. What started as heartbreak turned into an internet storm of theories and speculation. Then things got even more complicated. Dallas police made their first major arrest, Q and Dontrell White, the man accused of being the shooter, charged in early 2021. Later on, federal records connected him to firearm-related crimes, earning him a sentence of over 8 years behind bars. But what really flipped the story again was the involvement of another man, Devin Maurice Brown, believed to have been connected to the situation. According to court filings, Brown allegedly admitted that his anger stemmed from personal issues involving a woman who was also linked to Mo3. Prosecutors said this emotional tension might have fueled the entire chain of events. But even with everything swelling around him, Beezy seemed completely unbothered. The streets were talking, bloggers were breaking down theories, and fans were arguing online. But Beezy stayed quiet. He focused on dropping music, posting photos, and carrying himself like someone who had nothing to do with any of the chaos. But that calm front shattered on March 18, 2025, when a Dallas County grand jury hit him with an indictment for capital-level charges with financial involvement. That charge means one serious thing. The state doesn't believe Beezy pulled the trigger himself. They claim he paid others to do it. Just 2 days later, on March 20th, 2025, Beezy was taken into custody and the internet lost its mind. Some people celebrated, others defended him, and plenty started reposting old clips with captions like, "The truth always comes out." What made it worse for Beezy was how detailed the indictment was. It didn't leave much open to imagination. It directly accused him of working with Q and Brown in the killing of Mo3, with prosecutors reportedly reviewing financial evidence as part of their case. The entire fan base, the city, and even outsiders watching the chaos online felt like the last missing puzzle piece had finally clicked into place. But Beezy denied everything. He stayed tight-lipped, skipped interviews, and kept his cool in public, never breaking character for a second. And that's why this leaked clip hit so hard. Because for the first time ever, the man who spent years saying, "I don't know him," suddenly sounded like someone who knew exactly what went down. Even the courts have been keeping him on a tight leash. Judges ordered strict house arrest and only granted him 5 hours per week of studio time under supervision. At this point, Beezy can't afford anything that even looks like involvement. But now he's been caught on camera saying something he never wanted the public, or worse, a courtroom to hear. And here's the crazy part. The internet believes this leaked clip more than any official statement he's ever made, because you can't fake real reactions. When people get too relaxed, that's when the truth slips out. And Beezy was way too comfortable. Now let's talk about the moment that flipped everything. The one sentence that changed the entire story. The second you hear the line Beezy accidentally let slip, everything about this case suddenly makes sense. It wasn't some casual offhand comment, and it wasn't a vague line that could be brushed off or interpreted a bunch of different ways like artists usually do to protect themselves. Nope, what Beezy said in that leaked clip was clear enough to make everyone who heard it stop, rewind, and realize this wasn't just a mass slipping, it completely fell off. Now before we break down his exact words, it's important to picture the scene so you can feel the full weight of it. Beezy wasn't sitting in a studio surrounded by producers. He wasn't in an interview with cameras flashing. He wasn't next to his lawyer, manager, or PR team. This was different. He was in what looked like a living room. Laid back, laughing, talking loud, flexing a little, and reminiscing like he was deep in memory lane. The vibe in the room was pure oversharing energy. Drinks were flowing, everyone was relaxed, the music was playing low in the background, and Beezy was talking way too freely. He wasn't watching his words, he wasn't lowering his voice, and he definitely wasn't acting like someone facing serious charges. He spoke like a man who believed no one in that room cared enough or was bold enough to record him. But somebody did. And that's exactly why the internet exploded the moment this clip leaked. People instantly picked up on the one line he let slip. "We already handled that boy before he got touched." That was the phrase, the exact sentence that made the entire room freeze, made social media go wild, and probably had prosecutors shaking their heads in disbelief. Because if you followed this story even a little, you know why that one line sounds so risky. Now to be clear, he didn't say "we shot him." He didn't say "I did it." He didn't directly confess to anything in that clip. But that's not what makes it so serious. The danger isn't in the literal words. It's in the way his comment matches up with everything the streets have been saying for years. His tone, his confidence, and his phrasing line up almost perfectly with the same story that's been whispered in Dallas since Mo3’s death. Let me break it down. People in Dallas have argued for years about whether Beezy and Mo3 had a confrontation before things turned tragic. Some claim it went down at a club, others say it happened in the streets, and a few even believe it involved a woman. But now he's been caught on camera saying, "We handled that boy before he got touched." That single line completely destroys the clean image he's been selling for years. It's a sentence that hits hard because it says more than he probably ever meant to reveal. It shows he wasn't totally out of the loop. It shows he wasn't just some innocent bystander.
And it proves Mo3 wasn't a random name that popped up one day. Something real and personal clearly happened between them, and Beezy's tone said it all. The internet didn't need any extra proof or official documents to connect the dots. Once people lined up his slip-up with the timeline prosecutors have been building, everything started matching up, almost too perfectly. According to the state's filings, Beezy allegedly helped organize a plan involving Q and Brown as part of a supposed act of retaliation. And when that leaked clip surfaced, fans immediately grabbed screenshots and compared them to old interview moments where Beezy dodged questions and played innocent. The difference between those two versions of him is wild. On one side, you have the polished, media-trained Beezy acting like he doesn't know a thing. But in this leaked clip, you see the unfiltered version, the one that talks with familiarity, comfort, and confidence about situations he's been denying for years. He spoke about Mo3 with so much familiarity, it sounded like their conflict was an open secret inside his own circle. And when you rewind that leaked clip and watch Beezy's face carefully, everything changes in real time. The second he drops that line, he doesn't look confident, he looks shaken. His eyes dart, his jaw tightens, and his whole energy shifts instantly. You can literally see the moment he realizes, I said too much. He tries to play it off fast, chuckles a little, switches the topic, picks up his drink, leans back, and avoids eye contact. Every move screams that classic reaction of someone who knows they just crossed the line. And the moment the footage hit social media, bloggers and fans jumped on it. They started comparing his body language from this clip to all his old interviews. For example, when Say Cheese asked him about having any street connections, his answer back then was stiff, defensive. I don't do know, and he stopped himself mid-sentence. But in this leaked clip, he's the total opposite. Completely relaxed, talking freely about things that sound way too close to street payback. That's the contradiction that stands out. And it's exactly the kind of inconsistency that prosecutors love to highlight in court. Because here's the truth. People tend to believe the version of you that slips out when you're comfortable, not the one that's rehearsed for cameras. And the timing of this whole situation couldn't be worse for Beezy. He's already stuck under house arrest, waiting for trial, only allowed 5 hours a week for studio time under tight supervision. The judge has been crystal clear. Any mistake, even something smooth, could lead to even stricter restrictions or affect his case. The judge has Beezy under strict surveillance during his pre-trial release. And this leaked clip isn't just a slip-up, it's a bomb. The moment it hit the internet, Dallas lit up. Some people call it the final confirmation, others said he was careless, and a few insisted it was all a setup. But one thing everyone agreed on was that the clip hurt Beezy's image badly. Right after it dropped, people started connecting it to old social media posts and past headlines. Threads like Mo3's beef with Beezy, linked to earlier street drama, started trending again. Even major platforms jumped in. Academics himself reposted updates to his millions of followers, adding, Beezy arrested for capital-level charges in Mo3 case. When you combine that old headline with this new footage, it's a recipe for disaster. Because while the legal system moves at its slow pace, public opinion moves instantly. And if Beezy's case ever makes it to trial, prosecutors won't even need to prove the clip is a straight confession. They'll just need to show that Beezy isn't believable. A jury that doesn't trust the defendant, that's a jury that's more likely to convict. Right now, Beezy's biggest issue isn't just the charges, it's the contradictions. He can't explain why in official interviews he acts like Mo3 never existed, but when he thinks no one's watching, he casually mentions handling that boy. He can't explain how he denies every rumor in public, but then slips up and confirms the exact type of tension everyone's been whispering about for years. Once something hits the internet, it's there forever. Screenshots don't vanish, reposts don't fade, and blogs never delete viral clips. And when something this major drops, even prosecutors pay attention to every detail that fits their storyline. At this point, it doesn't matter whether Beezy meant it literally or was just talking loosely in the moment. The damage is already done. What really matters is perception. What matters are the contradictions. What matters is that for the first time, Beezy sounded like the version of himself that people in the streets always believed he really was. The one he usually hides when the cameras are rolling. No publicist guiding his words, no lawyer coaching his answers, just Beezy, relaxed and unfiltered, saying something he can't take back. And that's what makes this so powerful, because sometimes the real truth slips out in those quiet, unguarded moments. And that side of Beezy,
might be the one that decides what happens next in his story. If you've been following this saga, hit that like button to show support, drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates as we break down what's really going on behind the scenes. And if you're ready to dive deeper, tap one of the cards on your screen right now for the next video. It's only getting wilder from here.